Welcome everyone to Fauji Days. Today we have a very special guest with us. His name is John Edmond, and he's a musician from Southern Africa. He served in the Rhodesian Army, and he composed many songs, and uh, he has multiple albums. This is a very special interview because we have our first guest from Africa, first of all, and second of all, our first guest from a country that doesn't really exist anymore. So, without further ado, we'll start. Welcome, sir. Welcome to the show. For our first question, sir, could you tell us a bit about your early life, where you were born, and your family history, where you come from, and your enlistment into the Rhodesian Army?
Right. Okay. Let's start with my birth. I was born in a place called Luanshya. That's right on the Congo border between northern Rhodesia and now Zambia. It's a little
Oh,
mining town. My father and mother are Scottish, and my father, yeah, my father was a
okay.
pioneer. He first
Yeah.
came to Africa to Dar es Salaam in Tanganyika, Tanzania, as it is today. Uncle was a medical doctor there, so he came to look for his brother. He found his brother, and then he
Wow.
decided to walk to northern Rhodesia from Tanganyika. And he walked down the side of the lake. He was a great walker. He must have
All
walked
right.
hundreds of kilometers and to a place called Abercorn. And then he hitched a lift on one of the first trucks from Abercorn to a place called Broken Hill. And it was named after a place in Australia, which is a mining town as well. And he worked there for a bit and he got malaria. So they moved him to a place called Bulawayo. Then came the Great Depression, and everybody was out of work. But my father was the only
Ah, okay.
person in Rhodesia that knew anything about refrigeration. And of course, it was a big cattle mining place, a cattle farming place.
Wow.
So they needed fridges. So he got a job during the Great Depression. After the Depression, he moved to northern Rhodesia to the mine, and he imported
Wow.
his sweetheart from school days from Scotland, my mother. And they got married, and then I was born in a place called Luanshya in northern Rhodesia, and I did my early schooling there. And then my mother got very
Oh,
ill, and
okay.
she had to be moved back to Scotland for a while for medical treatment. So
Very
I went
nice.
with her, and I went to school in Scotland for 2 years. And then I
Oh, that's
developed my
amazing.
Scottish accent there. I can speak a lot of Scottish. So that, yeah, that was a great influence. And then I came back to Northern Rhodesia, and of course there were no high schools in the
Oh,
territory at the
okay.
time. So I went to a boarding school in South Africa, and I did my education at the Christian Brothers College in Pretoria. And then I got a job on the mine, and I went into computers, and they sent me to England, and I studied at a place called Moore Hall Computers, and came back to Northern Rhodesia, where I worked on the mine. I wrote a lot of programs, and then it became Zambia, and things weren't going very, very well at the beginning. So I looked for work in South Africa,
Okay.
and I got a very good position in Johannesburg. So I moved to South Africa then. So, but of course, I had been in the Rhodesian Army, and I did my training in a place called Bulawayo in southern Rhodesia, and it was
Okay, sir.
1956, 1957. I finished my
Yeah,
military
yeah.
training, and then came the Suez Canal problem, and Rhodesian soldiers were called up to go to Suez, and we all got on this Dakota and started flying over to the Suez
Oh,
Canal. Then the pilot
interesting.
turned back. He said, "It's all been sorted out. The Russians have gone." So I came back to Rhodesia, and then of course the Congo blew up, and I went to the border
Right.
between the Congo and northern Rhodesia and served on the Congo border.
So, sorry to interrupt you, sir. This was during the Federation days, right? During the Federation of Rhodesian Masterland.
Correct. Absolutely correct. The Federation. So it was the Federal Army. And I was in the Rhodesia Regiment. It was called the Royal Rhodesia Regiment. And I'll show you the badge if you like. I don't know if you can see the badge. There it is. That's the Maltese cross and the crown on top. That was the Royal Rhodesia Regiment. But after when Rhodesia declared UDI, it became the Rhodesia Regiment. So they took the crown and they put it in the middle and they put the lion on the top. But that doesn't matter. We still the Rhodesia Regiment. Yeah.
In fact,
Hmm.
even we have a regiment called the Garhwal Rifles. So even they have a Maltese cross as their emblem.
Oh, right.
So it's quite
Wonderful.
interesting how
Yes.
different Commonwealth regiments often share a lot of symbols, and
Yes.
uh, that's I mean, very interesting to hear your family history. I never knew that you were from of Scottish ancestry. That's very nice to hear because
Yes.
personally, it's my favorite country in the UK. So,
Oh, wonderful. Thank you very much. Well, I learned to play the bagpipes and
really,
I had my bagpipes and now I handed them to my son.
oh,
He's now 30 odd, 36, and now he plays my
that's lovely.
bagpipes. So it's carrying on in the
Scottish
family.
bagpipes.
Yeah, but I love bagpipes, and I'm sure, as a matter of fact, some of the finest pipe bands came from India.
Yeah, so I've heard.
The finest pipe bands in the world came from India. They were wonderful,
Thank you, sir.
wonderful.
Thank you.
I can remember that. Yeah.
I mean, it's lovely to hear your family ancestry, but you're known for your music, and
Yes.
so we'll move on to the second question that's related to music. How did you get into music? How did you get your first guitar? Tell us a bit about that and how you started composing songs.
Oh, right. Yes. Well, I couldn't play a guitar or anything like that. My first music was as a choir boy in the
Yeah,
church, and yeah. But when I went to the Congo border, we were doing the patrols there, and there was a trading store
right.
there, and I saw this guitar, and I took 1 week's pay. It was £1.15 or 15 shillings. I can't
Oh,
remember, and I bought my first guitar, but I didn't know how to hold it. Which way? And there was a guy in my section. I was a lance corporal then, and I had a little section. One of my chaps could play three chords, and he showed me my first
wow,
chords. And, and I only started writing songs seriously when I was in the army because it was inspiring me,
of course.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
now your most famous album, I believe, is Troopy Songs, and I mean,
Yes.
so I have so many songs that I like in there. But regardless, we'll save that for the later part of the interview. But let's move on to the next question for now. Uh, where all did you serve in the Rhodesian Army? And please tell us some traditions that you had of your regiment, because Commonwealth military traditions are pretty strong compared to other militaries like the Americans. They don't really have particularly strong traditions, but Commonwealth militaries do. So do tell us a bit about. I mean, you've already told us quite a bit, but if you have anything else to share, go ahead.
Okay. You asked me about the Rhodesia Regiment, the history.
So,
It was formed in 1899 in Rhodesia. Was during the Anglo-Boer War, and the Rhodesians were scared that the Boers were going to invade
right,
Rhodesia. So in 1899, they formed the Rhodesia Regiment as a safeguard against the
right.
Boers, who were great fighters, as a matter of fact. And anyway, that's how the regiment came about, 1899. And the regiment fought in the Boer War for Britain, had some very, very good, brave stands against the
Sir.
Boers. If you listen to my song, The Siege at the Elands River, there's a video on
Yes,
it.
sir.
That's all about the
Sir.
Rhodesia Regiment holding out against 3,000 Boers. But anyway, so they had a very good tradition, 1899. Then came the First World War. And of course, Rhodesian soldiers were first on the list to go and fight for Britain. And one in every 10 persons from Rhodesia got killed
Wow.
in the First World War. So they went over to Britain on a ship. And on the ship was the Marquis of Winchester, who was the colonel in chief of the King's Royal Rifle Corps, which is a very old British
Sir.
regiment. And the Colonel Brady on the ship became friendly with this guy, and he said, "Why don't you just affiliate your Rhodesians to the King's Royal Rifle Corps?" And that's why we've got the Maltese
Oh, okay.
cross, and the colours are
Yes,
black
sir.
and red, the same as the King's
Yeah,
Royal Rifle Corps, and that's where that comes
I
from. Yeah.
noticed.
So we had the same colours, like sergeant stripes were red and black. They weren't the normal sergeant colours.
Sir.
Yeah. So that's how we got affiliated.
That's very nice. So, in fact, I do recall that the King's Royal Rifle Corps had the Maltese Cross. It's very interesting to know how
Yes.
the Rhodesia Regiment got its emblem. Uh,
Yes.
and also rifle regiments now, I think most of them do have green and red as the colors. So
Yes, of course. Green, always green and whatever.
yes,
Yeah. Yeah. So that's our green
yes, sir,
beret
yes,
and the red and black with the Maltese cross. So that's the origins of the
very
regiment. Yeah.
nice.
But of course, it was dissolved in 1981 after Zimbabwe
Yes,
got its
yes, sir.
independence, and then the Rhodesia Regiment was
I
dissolved.
see.
So it had a history of 82 years. It's not a very old
Yeah.
regiment, but a very good one, I think.
I
Yeah.
mean, everyone's biased to their own regiment. Uh, my father was in the Punjab regiment, and my grandfather
Oh,
was
yeah.
in the Corps of Engineers. He was in the Bengal Sappers. So, I
Yeah.
mean,
Listen, the Indians have got an excellent record of their military capabilities, like the Gurkhas, and they've been part of the British Army for a
yes,
long
sir.
time. They served in big battles like Tobruk,
Yes, yes,
and
go.
they were mentioned in
Yes, sir.
dispatches. The Indian Corps was mentioned there in
Yes, sir.
Tobruk. So fine soldiers.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
As a matter of fact,
Yes,
during the Congo upheaval, a lot of Gurkhas were sent to the
yes,
Congo,
yes.
and they used to, if they took some leave, they would come over into northern Rhodesia, and I met some of them
Really?
there, and
Wow.
I met a lot of United Nations
Okay.
soldiers there, Swedish and Indian.
That's
Yeah,
very interesting to know because
yeah,
uh, I have read a lot about the gallantry awardees that were given a lot of honors because there were a lot of acts of valor that happened uh, during that conflict. But yeah, so
yes,
uh, moving on to the next question. So
yes,
tell
sir.
us a bit about your experiences in the Rhodesian Bush War and how fighting a guerrilla conflict, especially in the African context, must have influenced you.
Yes,
Uh, do share your experiences.
yes. Okay. Well, I told you I was on the Congo border, and it was there that I started writing little songs for the guys to cheer them up. It was quite a hard job, that. And I was a corporal, lance corporal, and I had this guitar which I told you I bought. And then I wrote little songs to cheer them up. And there were some officers there from the Federal Army, and they spotted me there. And then when Rhodesia broke away, and they needed like morale boosting, they tracked me down to Johannesburg and they said, "Listen, you got to come back here and sing a couple of songs for the guys." So I went back to Rhodesia and they flew me around in helicopters and I had to go to all these hotspots and sing little songs to cheer them up. And that's where I started writing troopy songs because there I could feel the feelings of the soldiers, their happy moments, their romantic moments, yeah. So it's kind of reflected in all those troopy songs, and that's where the inspiration came from.
So that's very nice.
So it was quite, yeah, it was quite hairy because they said you're not going to sing in the concert hall. You're going to go to the
Oh,
hotspots. You've got to go there right on the front line. So they put me in the Alouette helicopter, and I had my own pilot, and we flew to all these hotspots. And as a matter of fact, I was in an ambush as
oh,
well,
wow.
which was quite interesting. Uh, Coming back from one of the things we didn't have a helicopter, so they put me on a truck. And when we got to this crossroads, the thing was ambushed, and luckily I never got hit, and neither did my driver. So we just raced on. So that was quite interesting, A little bit of
Yes, sir.
action,
In
yeah.
fact, I remember your song.
And the other thing I
Yes,
want
sir.
to tell you, when I got there, they issued me with my own rifle.
Daisy. I,
Yeah.
in fact, I remember I remember that song Gunship Calypso. So I remember you talking about
Yes.
taking your amplifier uh, in the helicopter.
Yes. Absolutely.
It's very
Yes.
interesting.
That they were fantastic, man. Gee, I tell you, it was an experience that I'll never forget.
It's lovely. I mean, there were different times because conflicts during the Cold War uh, they had a different element of uh, you had to be a different kind of tough to survive back then in a conflict. And nowadays you have a lot of equipment, of course, to assist you. And back then it was much more bare bones.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
I suppose that that's how warfare evolves slowly. But regardless, uh,
Yes.
how did music? Uh, you told us about how it boosted morale for the soldiers at the front lines in the heat of the conflict.
Yes.
How did it
Yes.
affect the civilian populace? How did it? How was, in fact, how? Tell us a bit about the civilian perspective of the Bush War, because we know that the Rhodesian security forces were mainly staffed by volunteers and conscripts from the reserve.
Correct.
So
Yes.
that was the
Yes.
backbone of the Rhodesian military. So tell us a bit about the civilian perspective as
Correct.
well, because they were also heavily involved in the conflict, being a small country. So
Yes, indeed. Actually, it's a very good question because most able-bodied men were called up to do service, and when I went there to do my singing and stuff like that, I made a couple of recordings in Johannesburg, and then the Rhodesian Radio, the Rhodesian Broadcasting Corporation,
obviously,
they broadcast a lot of my songs to the
wow.
civilians, and I wrote a lot of songs for the civilians to boost. The women at home looking after the children while their fathers were away fighting. So a lot of the songs were played on the radio. A lot of the songs were like morale boosting for the civilian population, not only for the soldiers. So I could feel that as well.
So
I was spent a lot of time with some of the families there. Yeah.
I remember some
Mm.
songs like "It's a Long Way to Mokambara," and
Yeah.
also I'm forgetting the name, but yeah, "Rhodesians Never Die." That's a really good song as well.
Oh, that was Clem
Yes, sir.
Thollet. Clem Thollet was a brilliant songwriter. He was a very close friend
Oh,
of mine.
really?
We sang in, yeah, a very close friend. We sang in the folk clubs of Johannesburg before the war. We were great. We sang in the folk
I
song
had no
era,
clue about
folk
that.
song, folk singing. And Clem was one of my best friends. And then when the war came, he was inspired by the war. As a matter of fact, Clem Thollet, Rhodesians Never Die, was the Prime Minister's son-in-law, Mr. Ian Douglas Smith,
Oh,
the Prime Minister of Rhodesia.
so-
So Clem was married to Mr. Smith's
oh,
daughter.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I don't know if you knew
I
that
had
at
no
all, but
clue.
anyway, he was a wonderful guy. Yeah, he's passed on now, but he was an absolute great friend of mine and brilliant songwriter.
In fact,
Lovely stuff. Song for
so,
Johnny, and I don't know if you've
yeah,
got
I
his
have.
stuff, but
It's a really good
his
song.
songs were brilliant.
In fact, I, I mean, I had no clue about all these things that you knew Clem Thollet and that he was related to Prime Minister Smith. And in fact, it's good that we are covering these
Yes,
things in this interview because uh, it's important to keep history alive and record these things for people to you're passing your knowledge on to us, and I think that's a really good thing. So my personal favorite song is Nobody Was There. uh, that I
thank you.
really like that song.
Yeah.
uh,
Well, so that's a true story,
Really?
true
Oh,
story.
tell us a bit about.
Yes, it's a true story. I went to the barracks where the black African soldiers were trained, the Rhodesian African Rifles, fantastic fighting
Sure.
regiment that fought in Malaya for the
Burma,
British,
Egypt, and Malaya.
and they sent me.
It was there that we fought in Malaya.
Yeah, and they sent me to the barracks there to entertain them. And of course, Sweet Banana. That's where I learned. I don't know if you've heard it,
Yeah,
Sweet
of course.
Banana. And they taught me to do it in Shona and Ndebele. And that it was a great honor for the black soldiers.
So
Uh,
it Burma, Egypt, and Malaya. It was there that we fought and won that song. I remember. I will buy you a sweet banana. That's a really sweet song. I really enjoy
yeah,
listening to that. Uh,
yeah. But the Sweet Banana, they taught me to sing it. That song was written. The song was written. The soldiers went by train from Salisbury to Beira to catch the ship to go and fight in
so
Malaya. And on the train journey, which took about 2 days, the train stopped at every little station, and every station they were selling bananas. And of course, the big thing, one soldier would say to the other, "Can I buy you a banana?" And the guy said, "I'm sick of bananas." And so that's where the song "Sweet Banana" came from.
yes,
I don't know if you've heard it,
yes, I
"Sweet
have.
Banana."
I have. It's a very nice
Yeah,
song.
but that's the origin of the
So
song. Yeah.
uh, and so it's really interesting to know all these little facts. So, in fact, tell us a bit about your later life, how you came back to South Africa, and the waning days of the conflict, how it felt when it ended, when Rhodesia was taken over by Britain again, and then it turned into Rhodesia. How Rhodesians felt at that moment, and uh, if you could share your thoughts on that.
On when I came to South Africa, is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
What did I do
Yes, sir.
then? Or yeah, when I came to South Africa, I was of course trying to make a record. Every singer wants to make a record, and we went from company to company and say, "Do you want to record me?" And they say, "Push off! You can't sing. You can write, but you can't sing." And then I got a recording
So,
contract, and I met a gentleman by the name of Terry Dempsey, who was a great songwriter, pop songwriter. And he said, "I want your voice." So I said, "Okay." And we recorded my first pop song, was called Fairy Tales. And then we did another one called Round and Around. And one day this songwriter came to me, he says, "Guess what?" I said, "What?" He says, "The song's been chosen for the World Song Festival in Tokyo. And you're going to go and represent South Africa at the World Song Festival." and you're going to sing round and round. And that was one of the greatest musical experiences that I've ever had. And what an
So,
honor to sing for your
of
country.
course,
Yeah. By the way, have you got my book,
I
Bushcat?
have not, sir. No, I don't have it.
Oh well, I just see all the books behind you. I thought I wondered if you
Oh,
had it.
no.
I don't know if you can get it. The closest place you could get it will be in New Zealand.
Oh,
We've got an
okay.
agent in New Zealand and South Island. We've got an agent there, so that if you ever want to get it, I mean, I wish I could send you one, but Bushcat's got all the stories behind all the
So,
trippy songs. Yeah.
we'll try and see if we can get
Mm.
it, in fact. And so, can you tell us a bit about how it felt when Rhodesia was taken over by Britain again, then sovereignty was transferred to the Zimbabwean government? How,
Well, yeah, that was a difficult time for Rhodesians, and I was moving backwards and forwards to Zimbabwe. At one stage, I was non persona grata. I wasn't really welcome in Rhodesia by the the Mugabe
so,
government because they remember all my songs from the war days and stuff like that. But after a while, it all calmed down. I went back there, and I actually was flying an airplane at the time, and I flew my own airplane back to Zimbabwe. I had no problems at all there, and it was everything had calmed down. It was
so you
fine.
turned into a blue job.
And there's still a lot of yeah, a lot of Zimbabweans are still
So,
Rhodesians, and a lot of the farmers asked me to go and play for them, play all the old songs, and everything was cool after that. Not a
I,
problem, really.
so you also turned
Yeah.
into a blue job yourself after getting your pilot license.
Yes, of course. Yes. Yeah, I've always wanted to fly, and I became a blue job because when I had my plane, I was a farmer,
So,
and they had what they called the commando. That was like a territorial force in case of trouble.
okay,
And they knew I had a pilot's license, and they said, "Will you fly for the commando?" Because we did spotting and all that kind of
all
thing,
right,
which I did.
I see.
So I became a blue job. I became a
That's
blue job.
lovely. Uh, I didn't know
Yeah.
that as either that you uh, served as an Air Force pilot as well. That's really interesting to know.
Yeah, yes, it was called the Commando Air
Okay,
Wing. Air Wing, like was an air wing in Rhodesia called Praw, Police Reserve Air
okay.
Wing. So I served in the South African Commando Air Wing. So I became a blue job.
So you were a brown job as well as a blue job.
Yeah.
I remember that song. I wish I was a blue job.
Well, my dream came true.
10 years to go in the RLI. Uh,
Yeah.
how would you? This is our last question. How would you compare
Yes. Lovely.
life in South Africa with Rhodesia, and and to add upon that, how would you compare Rhodesia of the '60s and the '70s with Zimbabwe of the modern day?
Oh, wow. Politically it's different, but now that some of their fiery politicians have disappeared, the things go very well in Zimbabwe,
So
between the white farmers, a lot of white people still living there. Well, I say white people, the
yes, sir.
ex-Rhodesians, and they're still farming there, and a lot of them still come down on holiday and they come and visit me, and things are cool over there. No problem at all in Zimbabwe at the
So
moment. I don't think it's doing very well economically, but some of the farmers are still there, and they're providing food for the nation.
that's good.
Or some food for the nation.
Still
Yeah,
playing your part regardless of the government of the day. I think that's a good thing
yeah,
to
yeah.
still show devotion to your country. So how's life in South Africa compared to Rhodesia? I mean,
Yeah, sorry, just say that again.
How's life in South Africa compared to Rhodesia?
Oh, life in South Africa, it's actually very good. You know, it's there's no real problems here. You know, we have got a majority government, and Cyril Ramaphosa, I think, is a very good president. During the COVID pandemic, he handled it. I thought he handled it beautifully. I have met him.
Oh, really?
He's a very nice man, and I had a farm next door
So,
to him long ago,
so,
so we both were farmers, you
oh,
know. So I've met Cyril, and he's actually a very moderate guy. And life in South Africa is fine, you know. And a lot of Zimbabwean guys still come to visit me. Some of them are still up there farming and doing business.
so,
So things are cool up there. There's no problem in Zimbabwe at the moment. I mean, still some beautiful places to go to on holiday, like Lake Kariba and the mountains and the game
so,
reserves. And it's okay. It's going all right. No, I mean, my view is I got no problems. I don't dig up the past. And if I could go back, you know, a lot of my friends go back there regularly for holidays and stuff like that. I'll probably be going back soon, back to Lake
oh,
Kariba
lovely,
for a holiday on a houseboat.
lovely.
Beautiful. Yeah.
In fact, I knew that I said that that would be the last question, but uh, how's a less serious question? How's life on a game
Yes.
reserve?
Well, it is. You know, I bought a farm, and I've been in this area for the last 40 years, and
Okay,
for yeah, for about 30 years I was game farming
wow,
myself. I bought a piece of ground, and then slowly we put a fence up, and I bought my first animal, and then I bought my second animal and a pair, and then I started game farming on a small scale, you know. And then I sold the farm, and now I'm on a game reserve, but I just hire a little house here. Well, I built a little house here, and I shouldn't say retired. I think I'm tired, but I'm not retired. So I'm still busy writing
so,
and singing and performing where I can. And birding bird watching has become very one of my keen interests. I've written a lot of songs now about birds, and my next concert is going to be for the birding community. You know,
oh, okay.
so I'll sing songs about birds and
We'll
wild animals.
we'll be
Yeah.
eagerly waiting for your next song. Uh, and
Yeah.
sir, I think that concludes our interview. But before we end, I have a few quick fire questions that you have to answer in a word or a sentence at best, at most. So, uh, firstly, which was your favorite piece of equipment in the Rhodesian military?
My Fender guitar, which I still have
Oh,
today.
do you have it at hand? Can we see?
I still have that. Yeah, I still have that guitar. It's a Fender
Oh,
Malibu
okay.
acoustic
Wow.
guitar. Yeah, so I've still got
Wow.
it, and everybody wants to buy it, but it's not for sale.
Well, fair enough. I mean, who'd sell such an important piece of history? But what about Daisy? Did you forget about Daisy? You betrayed her
Oh, oh,
for your
Daisy.
guitar.
Yeah, Daisy. Yeah, that was. I called my rifle was called
So,
Daisy. You know, and later on when I was game farming here, I bought a shotgun for sort of self protection and for you know, and I called that Daisy as
oh,
well.
that's lovely.
So my son has now inherited Daisy, Daisy the
Oh,
second.
wow.
But I called my rifle Daisy when I was in the Rhodesian
So,
Army. Daisy, yeah.
and which was your favorite city in Rhodesia?
I think
Okay.
Bulawayo.
South Africa or Rhodesia?
Bulawayo
Sorry?
because say again?
South Africa or Rhodesia?
Bulawayo. No, in Rhodesia, in
Oh,
Zimbabwe, Bulawayo
okay.
was my
Yeah.
favorite city because I did my military training outside
All right.
Bulawayo. So, and my father was a pioneer of
Wow.
Bulawayo. So that's my favorite city. In Johannesburg, I think my favorite city would be Pretoria,
Oh, all right. All right. And would you prefer South
not
Africa or
Cape Town.
Rhodesia?
Would I
Would
what?
you prefer South Africa or Rhodesia?
Well, they're neck and neck,
You
the
can't be,
same.
you can't, no
Rhodesia.
diplomatic answers here. Choose one.
No, I can't give you a diplomatic answer. They're both fantastic places to stay. Our weather is good. Our politics are calm. There's no violence. Well, we have a little bit of petty crime. It's heavy crime in the cities, like in everywhere in the world. But you don't walk down the street in the middle of Johannesburg, but you don't do that in Los Angeles either.
Fair enough.
At night time, yeah. In the daytime,
Oh,
it's all right. But anyway, it's a wonderful country, South Africa, and I just wish it well. And I hope my grandchildren live
oh,
here,
okay.
and a lot of people move to Australia and New Zealand, but we're staying here.
And so when's your birthday?
My birthday is on the 18th of
All
November,
right. I'll mark it in fact so that I can wish
but
you.
but and please don't send me a present, all right?
Well, I can't give you any guarantees.
No, no, I don't take presents.
Well, that's too bad. You'll have to take one from me. And
Yeah.
so to conclude, is there any message that you would like to give on behalf of the Rhodesians to the Zimbabweans, to Africa, and to the world?
Well, I think the biggest thing that I can say to people is that we have to live in racial harmony with each
So,
other. We have to tolerate each other, and we have to and just peace. We don't want any racial conflict or political conflict or protests and marches, and we hope that the people in charge will be reasonable, which at the moment they are. They're okay. I don't vote for them, but they're running the country quite well. And Cyril Ramaphosa is a pretty good
so
president. And yeah, I just wish for peace. I don't wish for any conflict or protests or riots or seen enough of that stuff.
fair enough. I mean, you've had, I'm sure you've seen your fair share living in Rhodesia and
Yeah, yeah,
South Africa during such turbulent times. But nevertheless,
yeah.
I think that concludes our interview. And thank you for letting us interview you, sir. And it's really a privilege to have been able to talk to you. And yeah,
So, but I'd like to thank you very much. I'm very honored, and I hope everything will be all right. And you can contact me anytime you got any
honors
questions.
all mine.
I'm
Thank you.
around. I hope I'll be around anyway. I'll be
I'm
I'll
sure
be
you will.
88 years old. I'll be 88 years old one of these
88 years
days. Yeah.
young.
Yeah.
uh,
Young. That's
yes,
it.
sir.